Buxton's swearing in and stuff.
Oh, okay. I have to send a message to Kevin.
I'll send one to Steve, because I got the invitation in the mail.
Yeah.
All right, I'm recording.
All right, we're going to call the meeting of the Finance Committee to order on March 2nd, 2022. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Klee?
Here?
Alderman Camo is here. Alderman Gouveia?
Here.
Alderman Clemens? Alderwoman Timmons?
Here.
Alderman Moran?
Here.
Mayor Donches.
I'm here, so we have a quorum. Public comment. Is there any member of the public who wants to address the committee?
Lori Ortolano.
Please go ahead.
Hey, Lori Ortolano, 41 Berkeley Street. I see tonight you have the Inception Technology quote before you to continue the scanning records project. And I would just like to, state that I think when we get into projects of this magnitude, that the city owes us a little more information about the big total picture costs on a project like this. It came up 2 years ago almost, or about 22 months ago, when we funded it in July as about a $60,000 project, and it needs another 50 to take to completion, plus a little more for software. But the redaction piece of $1.3 million document is going to cost a lot of money when it comes to personnel time. And I wish we had not done it, because it was sent to us to allow to allow assessors to be able to work from home during COVID to access this information. Well, that's over. In 2 years, that really never happened with the records. And the excuse that the administration has given now, for this is taking a lot of time, is because we had COVID, we have a measure list, and we had staffing issues. Well, that's exactly what was going on when we voted the project in. We were, 4 months into COVID. We had no chief at all and no prospects of finding one. People were not knocking down the come to Nashua. And we had the state mandated and ordered measure and list with state oversight on it from the BTLA and the DRA. And we took it on. And now we're saying, hey, you know what? He doesn't know when these files are going to be available because we're burdened. I went over to the building department a few weeks ago, and I left an assessing meeting to get records on the art center. I didn't realize that they had entered into a scanning project, but they were actually able to download the documents I was looking for and give me the scanned copies as I waited there. They worked with me. You can't kind of service in the assessing office, and this is where the project started. So, this is going to be a $300,000 or more project, and it was spoken to us as a pitch to us as a $60,000 deal. And I think some of the redacting you should look at for necessity, because costing a ton of money. Totally agree with email, phone numbers. But now they're redacting the addresses of the prior property owner. I look at some of that, cut down on costs that taxpayers are going to pay and the time it's going to take to get the records. Thank you.
Any other members of the public wish to address the committee? All right, communications. First from Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Camo.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve change order number 1 for an addition to the original contract with Inception Technologies for the scanning of the property record files in an amount not to exceed $31,000. Funding through Department 132, Assessing Fund 53142, Consulting Services, General Fund. And we do not need to do a roll call.
No. All right, Ms. Kleiner.
Good evening. Kim Kleiner, Director of Administrative Services. So if the committee doesn't mind, I'd like to do a little bit of a timeline to help understand the project and where we are. Going back and looking at the minutes of the July 2020 meeting, We were in a certain place, and there were some projects that we didn't know about, some effects due to COVID, which changed the contract slightly. And for example, I'll give one example. Originally, our staff was going to take the files off of the shelves, and they were going to go through the files and pull anything that was a non-public, not a public document, before we placed them in the boxes to go to inception.
And what, the committee may not know, what is the project?
So the project is with Inception Technologies for the scanning of all of our property record files. Approximately a little over 29,000 property record files that live in the vault within the assessing department.
So you're making an electronic copy of 29,000 files.
We are, sir.
And how many documents do you think this is?
Originally, it was estimated for about 600,000. As you can see on the original quote from 2020, we have scanned over 1 million.
1 million documents scanned.
Yes.
And how much do you think there is to go?
Well, right now he's estimating there's only about 103 boxes, and we believe that to be about another 300,000 documents.
Okay. All right, go on.
So at the time of the 2020 contract, we were beginning to renovate City Hall. So our staff was relocated from the assessing office. They were allowed back in to box the files, but not to go through the files and take out the non-public documents. So everything got sent to be scanned. And we worked that in, we rotated them. As our staff came in to scan, the contractors stopped their work, they grabbed the boxes, brought in the boxes that had been returned, and we did that all throughout COVID. So we have these documents now that are within the DocuWare system in 103 boxes to go. The property, when they are scanned into the DocuWare system, they're typed. So when you look at the quote and it says indexing, that's what that means. The records are actually typed. So it may be an income statement. It may be a property record card. It may be correspondence, whatever type of document it is. That's going to make it extremely less complicated when we go through it to mark it either a public or a private document, because we can go by type. All property record cards are public information. Go to the type, bring up all the property record cards, mark them all public. Relatively easy. You get into a little bit harder when it's correspondence, right? Because now there may be things in that correspondence we actually have to read. I don't want to give anyone the impression that we have 1 million documents that we have to go read the whole entire document. That's not what's going to happen. Many will be typed and marked public or private by their type. Some will have to be looked at more thoroughly. The issue came into hand, and I agree that we had a lot of projects on the table. So we had the construction, staff wasn't in. We had COVID, and now we have the revaluation. So the staff is stretched thin. We do currently have training for all of the staff planned for Monday and Wednesday of next week. So they'll all be trained on the system, have access to the system, and we can start marking the documents we already have. Inception believes if this is approved, we can get the remaining documents scanned by June. So then the scanning is complete. We've started marking the documents. We're putting the $7,500 for the public interface into our budget for July. We can start that as soon as the budget's passed for July. And hopefully we're at a point where at least some of those records, the ones that we know are going to be public, can be turned on and accessed.
And the point here is to make all these put all these documents on the city website.
Yes, sir. It'll be by a link. that will bring the public right into the DocuWare system, and it will bring up all the public available documents.
So anybody can see any document in any of the 29,000 property files as long as it's a public document,
That's correct,
without coming to City Hall.
without coming to City Hall. And just for the record, the original estimate was $59,000. Inception has worked with us, and this is for an additional $30,000. And then other than the $7,500, which will be the public interface, which we'll put in the fiscal '23 budget, that's all the costs that we are aware of.
All right, questions, comments? Alderman Tebow.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not part of the committee, but I just wanted to clarify something, and maybe I'm the only one here that doesn't know this, but what is considered like stuff that would be not public?
Great question. Income statements, things on commercial properties, those are marked because those are not public documents. We do go through and mark private telephone numbers, private email addresses, things of that sort are not public information. A property record card has the owner and obviously the address of the property, so all that's public information. If you are an owner of the property, quite often if you are the past owner of the property, you are also listed on the property record card as the past owner. That's all public information.
Great, thank you.
Alderman Camone.
Yes, thank you. So you mentioned the original contract was for $59,000, and this is, as far as I know, the only increase we've made so far. There wasn't any other additional requests from the previous year or two. So this will bring the total to $90,000, and we expect that to be enough to fully complete the project?
Yes, the $90,000 plus the $7,500 for the public interface. We do have other projects with Inception Technologies. We have a contract project that we're working on. So there are other invoices that may be seen from Inception Technologies, but as far as this project, those are the costs.
Thank you.
Alderman Govea.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. So after this is done and the interface is all set and it's ready for public use, is there any upkeep costs that we're going to have to look at further down the line?
Great question. I've asked Inception. There is always room for storage, so this is on the cloud. And as the city is adding documents, and they may not necessarily be assessing, but they may be assessing, we may require additional storage costs, and we can negotiate that as it comes upon. What will happen is additional property record files will be scanned in by our assessing staff. So going forward, that's how information will enter the DocuWare system, which may require the additional storage.
Yes.
Just a quick follow-up. So it would be by storage, not like a per year contract with the company for the front-facing interface?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Kleiner. When do you think this will be completed? What's the completion date?
The estimated completion for the scanning is June. From there, I'm a little hesitant to say how fast we can get through the documents that we can't mark by document type. We're going to do our very best. But I'm really hesitant on giving a date only because if we're done by June, we have July that we're working with the reval company, August that our hearings start and staff's going to be out working with Vision. So there's going to be a little bit of time there that we have to devote staff time to the revaluation in order to meet DRA and state requirements.
Just one follow-up.
Yeah.
Are you fully staffed in assessing?
We are not. We are down an assessor.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you. I keep going to hit the button. In the State House, I have to hit the button to talk, so I keep literally trying to shut it off. The question that I have is, in the past, the property record cards, when it would get updated, when the assessor would go out and make some changes and so on, you were just kind of loading those twice a year, correct? Will this happen now real time? So as the assessor goes and does their documents, will that be updated, or will you still do that load twice a year?
Excellent question.
Sorry to put you
so
on the
there's
spot.
there's a couple different parts to this. So there's the property record card that we generate at the end of the tax year. That's on the website now. You can access that through WebPro. The property record cards I think you're mentioning are the ones that they physically marked, and those would be the ones that we would come back and we then scan into the DocuWare system. And anything of that sort would be a public document, so there would, and we would, mark it as such then.
So you're saying that all of the property record cards are already on the website?
That's correct, sir. The final property record card, the one that your tax bill is built off of, those are on WebPro now on the city website.
So all the scanning is just the historical documents?
That's correct.
Alderwoman Clee.
So the one card that I use all the time is the assessor's card, because it has all of the details of all of those aspects. That's the card that was getting loaded twice a year, correct? Is that the one, or is it the actual property record card that was going twice a year?
The assessor's card is the actual property record cards,
Right.
Card that your taxes are built off of, and it's once a year.
Okay.
It's generally, we try to get it done by sometime in December, but it's a process. They take quite a time to run.
Just clarification. So that's just going to remain the same. That won't happen in real time. If they go and they change anything, we're not going to see that change happen right away, correct? Just as you do your annual load.
Right. The property record card in WebPro will always be the final.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Another communication from Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager. Alderman Camo.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve change order number 1 to the contracts with Eastern Mineral and Granite State Mineral for a net change in an amount not to exceed $75,000. Funding through Department 161 Streets Fund General, account classification 61 Supplies and Materials by voice vote.
So we have Mr. Ibarra.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. So this year we did salt. We had $465,000 in the line. And as the state bid came out, the price of salt had jumped from last year's price of $49.50 a ton to $72 a ton, leaving me with a deficit of about 3,000 ton that we have on hand. And I'm looking to add 75,000 to our line to hopefully get through the rest of this season. We're 17, we have a 20-week block and 3 weeks to go, hopefully. Hopefully I won't be back looking for any more funds, but this will be transferred out of my operating budget from plowing services into the salt line. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Yes, yes.
Next communication from Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager. Alderman Camo.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve the award of the construction contract for the 2022 paving program to Sunshine Paving Corporation of Hudson, New Hampshire, in the amount of $4,562,802.50. Funding will be through Department 160 Admin Engineering Funds Bond and Trust Activity Paving and Department 169 Wastewater Funds, Bond and Wastewater Activities, Sewer Rehab and Stormwater Abatement by voice vote.
And we have City Engineer Dan Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is our annual paving program. So this year we intend to pave 14 miles or so of city streets, mostly in residential areas. We bid up this project in January, received 3 bids. Sunshine Paving of Hudson, New Hampshire was the low bidder. Sunshine has done the paving for us for the last 2 seasons and has done a good job. So for those reasons, we recommend award to them. As was noted, there's a variety of funding sources that fund this program. The bulk of it is paving bond money, but we replace sewer structure, covers, do some stormwater work, and part of this is being paid for through contributions that utilities made in lieu of paving. So I'd be happy to address any questions.
Anyone? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item, again, Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager. Alderman Camo.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve the award of the citywide pedestrian infrastructure conditions assessment and ranking contract to Nashua Regional Planning Commission of Nashua, New Hampshire in the amount of $42,500. Funding will be through Department 161 Streets, Fund Bond, Activity, Sidewalk Construction by voice vote.
Mr. Hudson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me. So as you know, the city has many miles of sidewalk. This project, working collaboratively with National Planning Commission, would allow us to inventory all that sidewalk and assess the condition of it, defining where we have problem sections that don't meet ADA requirements. This project, as I said, it will be joint with them. NRPC will fund a crew of collection folks, 2 people, and the city will do the same. And we'll work collaboratively throughout the summer to walk all the sidewalk segments and collect data. As part of the effort, we will also seek public input. There will be a public portal where people can pin on a map and be able to submit a comment about where they see a current issue that we should consider for future improvement. And we'll also, present the findings and other information at public meetings. All this data will be collected in accordance with statewide asset data exchange, which is a statewide system for conformity. And I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has about it.
Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Hudson. Our streets are in some rough shape and throughout the entire city. I appreciate the public portal. Would that be similar to what we did for the master plan, where people could just pin a street and then put a comment saying that there's potholes, or not potholes obviously, but broken sidewalks, or that there is a sidewalk needed in this area? Is that the type of commenting that you'll be looking for?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's my understanding. That was found to be very effective for the master planning process, and we intend to do the same thing here. Cast a wide net and try to seek all of the input that people have. And as we will go through, we walk everything. We'll go through and go through a prioritization type of an exercise too. Looking at a variety of factors, which sidewalks are in close proximity to public buildings, schools, that sort of thing, and try to get our hands around prioritizing future improvement placement of sections. So yeah, it'll be an open process, and we welcome everybody to comment.
Just a quick follow-up.
Yes.
I really do. I do appreciate that. So just clarification, is this project just to look at current sidewalks that exist, or the potential for other sidewalks that just don't exist? We often hear some people talk about some of the main streets like Main Dunstable or something like that, where there's no sidewalk for their children to walk to school. it's outside of the 1,000 feet, but it's still dangerous for their children to walk. So will they have the opportunity there as well, or is it just for the broken sidewalks?
We will be looking at the sidewalks that exist and assessing their condition, but I do fully expect as part of this that people, can comment on where they would like to see sidewalks. There's some areas where we have a sidewalk and we have a gap, and then another sidewalk, and areas where that looks to be filled in. And then, of course, as you mentioned, there are roads where people desire new sidewalks. So everything will be on the table in terms of gathering comment and information. But the end of this really will be to prioritize, define what we have and prioritize where the sections are that we should focus rehab on the most.
Just one more quick.
Yeah.
I know that you've been made aware of the grant for Lock Street and Whitney and that whole project there. That was a grant that we received almost 5 years ago, I think, that did the sidewalks for those two areas because of the walk to school. When we do this project and we get a list of the streets that need to be done, will we possibly try to work with our grant writer to see if there are any grants that could help us to kind of accomplish this goal, especially those for the Safe to School? I don't even know if that grant is still available, but different things like that so that we can ensure that we have that at less cost to our taxpayers. Will we be taking that into consideration? Yeah.
Yes, certainly. Through the infrastructure funding that's coming from the federal government, we understand that some of those pedestrian infrastructure funding categories will be increased. So we will be seeking grants and are hopeful that the city will participate in the benefit of some of those funds as well.
Thank you.
Alderman Camo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Hudson, do you have an idea on when this assessment is going to take place and when the public information meeting might take place?
We're going to commence in sometime in the spring. So this is both the city and NRPC are going to hire an intern for the summer. So that's we need to hire that person. Of course, those folks, a lot of them are in college. So we'll commence in the spring, collect the data through the summer. I would expect to start sharing some information from that study in the fall. And then this is kind of a first step in developing an ADA transition plan for the city, which identifies all those improvements you need to make, puts it to a schedule and all those sorts of things. But in order to do all that work, you need good inventory up front. So that's what this is going to be. This is going to be focusing on that inventory work.
Thank you.
Alderman Tebow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Hudson, so I'm looking at the timeline for this, and it looks like final deliverables will be done June of 2023. So all this work will be pretty much, as far as assessing it, will be taking place this year, and then there won't be anything actually started until that time, or will that stuff be finished by 2023 as far as fixing any sidewalks or?
We're fixing some pieces of sidewalk every year, so that will continue. Originally this collection effort was going to be split over 2 summers, done by NRPC alone. But we really pushed to make sure this all gets done in 1 year by agreeing to staff the field work portion of it. So yeah, I mean, this will feed into our consideration of future work. Every year we seek sidewalk funding, and we every year we do make improvements. Last year we didn't do a lot of sidewalk segments per se, but we replaced over 100 ADA ramps in conjunction with a paving program. So yeah, I mean, this is important work to be done. It will inform and our work going forward, but it's not like we're not doing work otherwise.
Follow up, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Tebow.
Thank you. And it also says the public outreach will be on April 15th, 2023. Is that set in stone, or is, obviously probably not, right? That's just the target date, or?
Yeah, I think the schedule can fluctuate. I know that we're estimating how much time it's going to take to do the field work. I mean, we are going to walk every piece of sidewalk, so that will take time. And PC thinks that's going to take quite a bit of time. I'm hoping that will go a little bit faster. But we're not going to, I mean, we'll continue to move the project forward. We're not going to hold back. So it's possible we can do some of that stuff earlier. But, you know, this year time frame is a fair estimate for you know, side limit of time. I'm hoping it'll be quicker, but that's the estimate.
Great, thank you. I appreciate the project. Thanks.
All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next communication, again from Kelly Parkinson, and thank you, Mr. Hudson. Purchasing agent, purchasing manager, Alderman Camo.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve the contract with Wright Pierce to provide a Class A upgrade evaluation, preliminary design plans, and specifications in an amount not to exceed $199,886.60. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater, Fund Wastewater, Activity, Wastewater Class A Biosolids Upgrade by voice vote.
Mr. Boucher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The wastewater facility currently produces a Class B biosolid. We pay a management company to dispose of it. They spread it on farmlands throughout New Hampshire, Massachusetts. With evolving regulations, we found that it was getting harder and harder for these management companies to find places to dispose of it. Last time we had a contract out, only one management company had submitted a bid. And we're starting to see it getting harder and harder to dispose of it anywhere. So we want to look into producing a Class A biosolids. This is typically further drying. It reduce the weight of our biosolids. Plus it also relaxes, well, it opens up for more disposal options. More places are accepting of taking it. It's possible we could use it for some cap material at the landfill. But also trucking fees are increasing now also. So this would also help reduce the cost of trucking as well. And we're also starting to see PFAS is the big topic. If you know, some of the farmers are getting nervous about that, not wanting certain products spread on their property. If we had to in the future go to disposing in a landfill, this would also decrease the cost in trucking and tipping fees. So Wright is the company we want to use to do this work. They've been in the facility. They know our facility. They did a preliminary study already, 20-year study on this. So they've already got a start. Using them would help us get through looking at what type of Class A drying units. Every company does it by a different method. There's some that are more efficient than others. But this would take us right up to what equipment we would need. Also, it's possible that we'd have to expand one of our buildings to put this unit in. So it's a big undertaking. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item, again, communication from Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager. Alderman Camo.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve the award of the primary and secondary digester coating project to John E. Egan Company Incorporated from West Newton, Massachusetts, in an amount of $339,500. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater, Fund Wastewater, Activity, Digester, Gas Tank Coating by voice vote.
Mr. Boucher.
Thank you, Mayor. The wastewater facility, 2 large tanks. One's a 500,000 gallon tank. One's a 1.3 million gallon tank. They're due for a coating. They're both steel tanks. The 1.3 million gallon tank has an insulation layer, a foam insulation layer, and a rubberized layer. So this project covers some repairs. There's in the rubberized layer, so they repaired that, sandblasting and recoating both these tanks. And Egan's done work for us in the past, was to factory conditions, so we'd like to go with them to do the work.
Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you for taking this question. It's a question that I ask whenever I see that there's a bid and one or two bidders are way different than the rest. I saw that SOEP Painting Corp had a bid of $634,950, which is significantly higher than the other two. Why, I don't know if you could actually answer this, but why would their bid be so much higher?
Some of these companies, I don't know specifically why theirs, but some bid differently based off of whether they're going to need scaffolding or if they actually have the equipment to actually, like bucket trucks to reach. I know that there was a company that was thinking about using scaffolding, but the price of scaffolding is really high right now. So they're opting to hire trucks. That could be one of the cases, but I don't truly know why they bid so high on this project.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Kelly, next communication, Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Camo.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve change order number 1 to the pump station upgrades Phase 1 contract with DeFelice Corporations of Dracut, Massachusetts, for additional work at several pump stations in an amount not to exceed $139,313.15. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund SRF Loan Activity Pump Station Upgrades Phase 2 by voice vote.
Mr. Boucher.
This is Phase 2 of our pump station upgrade. It involves upgrading 7 pump stations in the city and 1 combined sewer overflow site. Some of the here, one of them is the emergency generator costs have increased since the initial bids came in. Our Blackstone pump station has to be moved to another location because the location that was put in the designs did not work with the existing wet well in our pumps. So that would have caused some issues with the pump according to the pump company. So we had to have a redesign where the building was going to be located and some piping redesigns. Also at the Santier pump station, we also had a wet well modifications because of the direction of the sewer, the gravity sewer that went into the existing pump station. Wasn't going to work with the existing, with the new pumps that were going to go in, so it has to be redirected. There's also things in here that would help and aid in the cleaning of the pump station in the future and the force mains. So I'll take questions.
Anyone? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item from Kelly Parkinson, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Camo.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve change order number 1 to the engineering contract for the City of Nashua's landfills with Sanborn Head and Associates of Concord, New Hampshire, in the amount of $66,000. Funding will be through Department 168 Solid Waste, Fund Solid Waste, account classification 53, professional and technical services by voice vote.
Mr. LaFleur?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Jeff, Superintendent of Solid Waste. As some of you guys know, this engineering firm, Sanborn Head, does all of our engineering for the City of Nashua for the Fort Hills land and our closed landfills. We had some added costs to our general engineering for this fiscal year. It exceeded $6,000. We had some stuff that went on with our Phase 3 landfill, some air monitoring that had to be recalculated and submitted into DES, groundwater reporting that had to be done, and some financial assurance updates that we had to do. So we're requesting $66,000. That should complete to this fiscal year for our general engineering, barring any added problems from DES or added testing results need to be sent into DES. I also want to let you guys know that in the next couple of months, I'm out for another 3-year contract with Sanborn Head, just not to confuse it going forward when you see Sanborn Head again in a couple of months.
Questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Unfinished business, we have none. New business resolutions, none. New business ordinances, none. Record of expenditures. Alderman Comeau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion that the Finance Committee has complied with the city charter and ordinances pertaining to the record of expenditures for the period from February 11th, 2022 to February 24th, 2022 by voice vote.
Okay. Questions? Comments? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. General discussion. Any general discussion items? Public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to address the committee? Remarks by Alderman. Any Alderman with remarks? Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Today is Ash Wednesday, and I join my fellow Christians around the world as we pray and fast for the people of Ukraine. I just want to, since today is Ash Wednesday, I want to share that with the people of Nashua. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Tebow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to recognize that this past Monday was Dominican Republic Independence Day. I was at the flag raising with the mayor, and I just wanted to recognize that. It was a great event. It was cold, so it wasn't a huge event, but we were out there, and the mayor raised the flag, and it was a great moment for that community. So I just wanted to mention that.
On Ukraine, we've ordered a Ukrainian flag, and when it comes, supposedly it's in shipping, I don't know. When it comes, we will do a flag raising ceremony out in front of City Hall.
Thank you.
And there are some Ukrainian people who would very much like to be involved. Okay, more remarks by Alderman? Anyone? Alderwoman Klee.
Yes, I motion to adjourn at 7:42.
And before you leave, please sign the record of expenditures, members of the committee. The motion is to adjourn. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the meeting of the Finance Committee is adjourned at 7:42 p.m.